Can I get a mic or a mic and a half? That the source owe me. Shout out to the editor staff. Yeah, I'm all grown, so much better with math. I need a spread in the Forbes, taking the Benjamin bath. Yeah, I'm serving this track like Steffi Graf. Yeah, Roger Federer, there's no competitor.
Urban Tennis, Episode 3, Cue Me. Welcome back, everyone. We're on the verge of the most prestigious tournament in the world, the championships, Wimbledon. And with that, we've got some interesting topics. I'm your host, the author of A Man and His Racket blog. And today we'll be talking about the men's draw, especially the favorable one that Novak got, the ladies' draw, and where we see some things or chances some players may have. We'll talk about the 40th anniversary of the infamous WTA inception. We'll talk about apps, particularly the Wimbledon app. And then we'll have some games at the end and our social media highlight of the week. So everyone, let's get started. Okay, so draws were released. And once again, we are always interested in see where these top players end up. And on the men's side, I think it was almost karma for Novak Djokovic, who unluckily got Rafael Nadal in the semifinals, has a very, very favorable draw. Murray, Federer, and Nadal all on the bottom side, bottom half of the draw, not in Djokovic's draw. So it looks like, barring any huge upsets, Djokovic is going to have a spot in the finals. What do you think?
Without a doubt. I mean, Djokovic couldn't have asked for a better draw. I mean, he's still going to have challenges. I mean, it's never 100%, even when you have such a talented guy like Djokovic. But it looks like it's going to be Djokovic. The real challenge is if we're going to see a rematch of the semifinals we saw this year at the French Open. Can Nadal break through these? He's going to have to start playing tough back in the quarters. Like he has to win in the quarters, and then he might have a tough semi matchup. So will we see a repeat if we want to see that?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the storylines we'll be watching. And I think Novak really got lucky. He avoids Tsonga. Many of the great grass floaters are really not on his side. So I think he's easily a favorite in the top half of the draw. Like you were saying, we're looking at the fact that we might see Nadal, Federer in the quarterfinals, like we saw in Indian Wells this year. And I think for Federer fans, you got to hope that doesn't expend a lot of energy like he did in the French in the early rounds. That fourth round matchup with Gilles Simon is probably more significant to his loss to Jo-Wilfried Tsonga than anything else. So he really needs to get out of those first four matches pretty clean and then kind of use his experience against a player, obviously, who's had the upper hand against him in Nadal, but someone who always, never clean on Wimbledon. He's never really got through Wimbledon very easily, so he's going to stumble. He's going to lose a couple of sets. He might even fall out if he did like last year. So the key for Federer this year is going to be try to spend as little energy as possible and then, put it all on the line starting in the quarters.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is going to be a really tough tournament for Federer. I mean, Federer is a defending champ. Let's not forget about that. But he did lose his last match at Wimbledon in a once in a lifetime match at the Olympics. So, and he did win on grass last at Haley. Is that what it's called? Yeah, that's what it's called, right? So it's going to be great. I mean, we're going to see a lot of great tennis earlier on in the week than we usually do, right? Because of this weird setup we have with Nadal.
Right, that the start of the second week is going to be intense right away. And I think for my coach, I think it's Hala.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. The person that we didn't have at the French, but maybe, obviously is the crowd favorite, is the great Scot Andy Murray, who returned in Queen's Club and won that tournament, the precursor to Wimbledon after his back injury. He kind of broke through last year, obviously, with the Olympic title and the U.S. Open title, but it all started by making the finals here at Wimbledon. And I think he's in a great position again. He's got a pretty manageable quarter. He'll probably get the winner of a quarter, of the Nadal-Federer quarter, of a player that's probably spent more time on court. So it's really foreseeable that he's got a great shot once again to make the finals. I know some are doubting and some have doubted. I've kind of wrote about that, but how impressed were you with what he did at Queen's Club? And do you think Murray's really ready once again to take that run at the 1936 Fred Perry streak?
Yeah, I mean, you can't count him out. I mean, he'll get a lot of picks from people to win this tournament, but it'll be tough. It's his first slam coming back from an injury, and he's facing a stacked field still. I mean, obviously, even outside of the traditional Big Four, which includes Murray, you still have Tsonga who's a threat. You still have Ferrer who's a threat. You still have Gilles Simon who could break through and upset a few guys and be a threat. I mean, it's going to be a huge threat on the men's side for him to get to a semifinal at least.
Yeah, there's a possible Tsonga-Murray quarterfinal that definitely should be interesting. Moving on to the ladies' draw, and almost facetiously, we're almost looking at who do we think is going to be the ladies' runner-up this year. Unfortunately, but obviously maybe in an era we live in with Serena Williams being so dominant. But so who do you like, I guess, out of the two main threats, Azarenka and Sharapova, whose grass game do you like better, and who do you think's on better form coming into Wimbledon?
Well, I think you have to say Sharapova is. I mean, this is probably the best tennis we've seen for Sharapova in about 3-4 years at least, and she's really showing that she's reaching her form. It's just that Serena is playing probably the best tennis for her career again, and we're not Serena haters like a lot of other blogs are. At least I'm not. And it's just that Serena's just so dominant, so it's like hard to see who can challenge Serena at this point. It's like the 2007 Patriots. Who can defeat them, right? I mean, if you're a Patriots fan, it's great, right? But like, it's tough to see who has a logical chance of winning.
Are you trying to say that Victoria Azarenka is the New York Giants? Am I kind of hearing that? Because I think Azarenka, when offers a little bit of more variation, it seems, to Serena's game to challenge her. Her last loss was to Azarenka. I'm not going to predict anyway that Azarenka will win, but I think she provides something of a challenge. But I do agree that Sharapova is playing really good, and for even the last 13, 14 months. She's just a fighter on court. She just does not give up in a match, and that's really provided a lot of consistent results. Even though it's only one slam in that year and a half, but she's been really consistent. But I know this may be a little sacrilegious, but do you think we're due for a letdown for Serena Williams? A lot of people thought that the second French Open title was the big title for her, just to prove again that she could win on clay, and she did that. Is she due for a letdown, or do you continue this dominance? The Williams sisters' dominance at Wimbledon has gone on for nearly 10 years. Does that continue?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, that's the way you can look at it too. I mean, Serena Williams has at times where she's been upset. She has lost. I mean, it has happened. It's the only thing we just keep seeing throughout this, since the beginning of clay season. Is like, it seems like she can't lose right now. So that's the only thing. But if she loses, I'm sure it'll be a great match at the very least. So it's a win-win. We'll look at it that way.
Okay. So those are the draws. We'll see how they unfold. But our next topic this week is on June 20th of this year, we celebrated the 40th anniversary of the formation of the WTA, which was created in earnest by Billie Jean King and the WTA members in a London hotel room where Billie Jean King's former husband made ironclad contracts that these women would form a tennis league and demand better pay, better appearance fees. And in the 40 years since, it's easily seen the results. Women's tennis players are the highest paid professional athletes on the women's side. They have huge sponsorship deals. Just look at Maria Sharapova, Li Na, Serena Williams. These women are making $20 million plus a year on endorsements. So a lot of progress on the WTA side, and a lot of that has to do with Billie Jean King, those original 9 who signed that deal, $1 deal at the Virginia Slims Championship, and those initial women in 73. I think we should just take a moment to remember, it's only been 40 years, but they're still fighting, for pay equality. They received that at the Slams recently, even after a lot of criticism. But it's a huge step, and 40 years on, it's still hard to believe that it actually happened.
Yeah, I think this is another great example of how sports is a microcosm of what happens in the rest of the world. I mean, we see this was a big movement. This in trying to get women on equal footing with men, and not to say that it's 100% equal right now, but it was a big step forward. And you kind of see most notably with the WNBA, right? The WNBA was worked off very closely with the NBA, and then it's starting, like, over these last about 15 years, it's starting to get its own identity. So, and then that's just like how the WTA started, right? I mean, a lot of these women's players started on the same tournament playing with men, and now they can stand on their own. So I think that's really the goal for all women in sports.
Absolutely. I think tennis, they still have to keep improving, but they've done a lot in these last 40 years. This podcast and this blog, really tries to keep up with the techiness of the world, and especially the world of tennis. And this week we're going to look at the Wimbledon app, which is pretty awesome, really. The Roland Garros app was pretty shaky. I don't want to start bashing them, but Wimbledon, with their partnership with IBM, provides a great visual layout, all the scores you need, great news stories. It's just a great app, and it's been one for a couple of years now. So, even though it's the oldest and most maybe posh tournament, it's really done a great job improving their apps and keeping fans connected all over the world.
Yeah, I have the app open right now, and just like 2 seconds in, I can see how it was an improvement from other apps we've seen this year. I mean, right away, you see the main thing you want to see on your app. You see the scores. One click, and you see order of play, you see news, you see live at Wimbledon. So it has everything quick, easy, and it's a good app. It's a good app, and I hope to see other tournaments emulate this.
And I just like that it transfers over those classic scoreboards at Wimbledon. Everybody loves the scoreboards at Wimbledon, and it's on the app. It's just a great touch. Very classy app, very functional, and I've never had problems, and I really look forward to using it over the next fortnight. We're almost done episode 3, but we like to end with some of the games that we have introduced in the podcast. And this week we're going to do Hawkeye Challenges, where we challenge coaches, fans, players, tournaments across the tennis world to really bring up their game. So I'm going to start with the first challenge, if that's okay with my co-host.
Yes, it is.
I challenge the first round at Wimbledon to be awesome. We've got some great matchups. Robson, Kirilenko, Jill Simone, and Feliciano Lopez, which is the Eastbourne final. We'll get them in the first round. Martin Klizan and Tomas Burdick, who's trying to rebound from his first round loss. And then Caroline Garcia is in a great matchup with Ji Zheng. So I really challenge the Wimbledon first round. You've got some great matchups. Please live up to it and provide some great tennis.
All right. And my Hawkeye challenge goes out to the Wimbledon ball crew and ball girls, all of them, all together. Because I remember from the French Open, remember the one girl with the unique little hair that really stood out to me. So if you really can make yourself a presence, make a sometimes long match that much more interesting, I'll appreciate that.
And the third Hawkeye challenge is I challenge the tennis world to really pay attention to what the Bryan brothers are trying to achieve this fortnight. They're trying to go for 4 straight Grand Slams, folks. That's just a great achievement. They've already won 8 tournaments this year. We're watching a great, great tennis duo in the Bryan brothers, and we may not have many years left of them, but I do think we should pay attention as they try to complete the Bryan Slam. As always, we like to end off with our social media highlight of the week. And this week is pretty timely. Instagram introduced, is it 15-second videos?
Yeah, it's something pretty close to Vine.
Yeah, something close to Vine, competing with Vine. And Wimbledon took advantage of that right away, and they had their first video up was basically walking into the historic center court. And once again, just a great use of Wimbledon using technology, using social media, and really showing off why it is the most prestigious tournament in the world. Thank you to my co-host. Thank you to all of you for listening. This has been episode 3. Cue me.
Alone in your thoughts, how many others have stood where you stand today? Have stood where you stand.